Hey guys, I'm Hellhound, and I'm back from yesterday, or the day before, or whatever it was the last time I did a video, watching Star Trek, as you can see. Oh yeah, McCoy and Spock about to beam up good old Captain Kirk. I love Star Trek. But today, I'm not actually going to be talking about Star Trek, I'm going to be talking about the House movies, the House franchise, which I think the first House is a very, very fun movie. It's just a blast to watch. It's very, very amusing, very entertaining. It's kind of like a horror comedy. It's right up there with movies like Return of the Living Dead and Fright Night. It's just a hoot. It's just so fun to watch. And I reviewed it already, the 1986 House, directed by Steve Miner, I believe. Yeah, Steve Miner. And written by Fred Decker, pretty sure. So yeah, I reviewed the first House movie, and I reviewed the horror show, which I'll get to why that's relevant here in a second. But first, let's do a little background. Let's start out from the beginning. Okay, yeah, the original House that I've already reviewed, as I said, was released in 1986. It was actually made in 1985, and I think it didn't get a U.S. release until '86. So I consider it a 1986 movie. Very fun movie. It takes place in a haunted house, of course. Lots of really awesome rubbery monsters and other creatures, demons, and just ghosts and everything. Like really, really fascinating, really well done creatures, like that witch right there. The special effects are really good. It stars William Catt as Roger Cobb, who's one of my favorite horror protagonists of all time. Roger just is awesome. He's really cool, and I really felt bad for him because his son has been missing. His son actually disappeared in the house, in the swimming pool, before he moved in, because it actually belonged to his aunt, and she died. And he inherited the house. Yeah, very fun movie. Yeah, I love House. I love I love the original House. It's one of my favorite movies ever. First time I saw it, I just fell in love with it. Yeah, great special effects, really great creature effects. Great costumes. Puppetry and animatronics are so much better than CGI, and this movie is a testament to that fact. And yeah, very, very, very great lead character, as I said, in Roger. He's just awesome. Yeah, that's House. I already reviewed this one in full length, so I just gave a quick summary, so check that out if you haven't already. Then it was followed by a sequel, House 2, the second story. That's the movie I'm going to review today, once I get finished with this little introduction here. So the actual review is probably going to start at like the 5-minute mark, so go ahead and skip to the 5-minute mark if you want to just skip to the House 2 review, because right now I'm just giving you a brief backstory, a little bit of history about the House franchise. Ooh, this is an X-Rental, too, from Adventure Video. How cool is that? Yeah, House 2 took it in a much more comedic direction. It's still a horror movie, but doesn't really have any scary parts. It's pretty much very lighthearted and very kid-friendly. It's rated PG-13. I mean, this is going to be like a family movie. It's really, really tones down the horror and really ups the humor. It's more of an adventure than a horror movie, but I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, I'm going to give you a full review here in a second after I finish the history. Again, skip to the 5-minute mark if you want to skip this introduction, go ahead with the review. Yeah, House 2. Very fun movie. Not quite as good as the first, but I'll tell you more about it here in a second after I finish this. As I said, yeah, the first one's a classic, and the second one's a pretty decent follow-up. So then what happened was, after House 2, the second story, there was a movie called The Horror Show, starring Lance Henriksen as a cop and Brian James as the villain, Max Jinky. Now, I've reviewed this movie as well. It's very similar to Shocker, has an executed serial killer coming back to haunt the man who arrested him. Very good movie. However, it's really not technically part of the series. However, what happened was this was actually known as House 3 outside the U.S. This basically became House 3. It's a very good movie in its own right, but it really has nothing to do with the House series. I know that the second movie wasn't really connected to the first, but it still felt like a House movie. It still took place in a house, and this takes place mostly in a house too, but it's more about, a ghostly serial killer getting revenge, and, it really doesn't feel like a proper House movie. Still very good, though, and I highly recommend it. Definitely pick up this Blu-ray if you want. So what happened was, when the real House 3 came out, they had to retitle it as House 4, since a horror show, as I said, is already known as House 3 in some countries. And House 4 isn't very good. I don't like it a whole lot. It had some memorable scenes, like a talking pizza coming to life, and a bloody shower, and a pretty cool twist at the end, and some really interesting, really over-the-top villains. But I don't recommend House 4. Basically, William Catt returns as Roger Cobb, But he's really, definitely, clearly not the same character from the first movie at all. It's very obviously not the same character. They just brought him back. They brought the actor back and gave him the same name just to get people to see it. It's really not a very good movie. As I said, it has some memorable scenes, the pizza scene and whatnot, but I really don't like it. They kill Roger Cobb off in a really depressing way, and it's really a downer, and then the rest of the movie is just really cheesy and corny. This is it. There's a few good moments. Overall, I give it a thumbs down. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't even own it. I don't even think it's available on DVD. I don't really want to buy it on VHS. I just really don't want to own it because I think it's mostly a piece of crap. I'd give it like maybe a 4 out of 10. It's not anything compared to the other House movies. And again, killing off Roger Cobb is a huge mistake, even though it's clearly not the same character at all. It's very obvious if you watch the movie, you'll see what I mean. But anyway, okay, well, check out my review of the original House and check out my review of The Horror Show. But for now, we're going to talk about House 2, the second story. So yeah, let's begin the House 2 review. I guess it kind of started more at 5:30 mark than 5, but oh well. I already told you to skip here anyway. Alright, so House 2, the second story. It's not really related to the first film. Roger Cobb doesn't return. William Catt. Not the same cast. It's not even the same house. It's a totally different story. And it even says that. Yeah, there's the little hand. I love the little hand on the cover. It even says that on the cover. It says, the second story, of course. It says it's an all-new house with brand new owners. Now, this one stars Ari Gross, who's the main character, and his best friend, Jonathan Stark, who you may remember as Billy Cole from Fright Night, one of my favorite movies ever made. He played Billy Cole, and he plays the best friend character on here. And his character in this movie kind of reminds me of Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber, even though this movie came out first. Even the haircut looked the same. He really acted a lot like Lloyd. And the only other thing I've seen Jonathan Stark in besides Fright Night and House 2 was a Tales from the Crypt episode with the Siamese twins. He's a pretty good actor. I like him a lot, so I wish I could have seen him in more stuff. But yeah, this movie, as I said, takes a completely way more. I mean, the first movie was a comedy too. It was very fun. This one's way more of a comedy. Almost feels like a kids movie in some ways. Yeah, Ari Gross inherits the house. Him and his girlfriend, Laura Park Lincoln from Friday the 13th Part 7. She played Tina, I'm pretty sure. I think that was her name. Yeah, Tina. And he inherits the house and he discovers the zombie of his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, played by Royal Dano. You might recognize from Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Ghoulies 2. He's he's the old man in a lot of movies. And he's pretty funny here, too. He's a zombie and he's undead. And yeah, and then they discover another dimension in their house. It leads to this crazy, like, prehistoric, foresty type place with, like, dinosaurs and a caterpillar with a dog's head. And then this like Western outlaw comes back from the dead, and he's like the movie's villain, and like he just looks like a bad guy from a Western movie, and all kinds of crazy stuff happens. It's more of an adventure than a horror movie. The first movie, The House, had like secret doorways to other dimensions too, and otherworldly creatures, but it was like done in a kind of more scary, more suspenseful manner, despite having a lot of humor in it. This was way more of like an action film, and like just like a not really many horror elements until like the very end when the bad guy is like in the house and the police have it surrounded. They think that Ari Gross is responsible, and all kinds of weird, crazy twists and turns. This movie's not nearly as memorable as the first one. I definitely recommend the first one over this one, but I'd say it's definitely a decent follow-up, and it's definitely the best of the House sequels, even including the Horror Show, if that even counts as House 3. I definitely recommend it if you like the first one, because it does feel a lot like the first movie with the otherworldly creatures and the parallel dimensions and like other worlds that they explore. But as I said, it's more of an adventure with dinosaurs and crazy settings and locations than a straight up horror film. And you can watch this one with your kids. It's like a family. I don't think anybody really dies or anything. Not that they did in the first movie either, but the first movie had some definitely horrific moments and scenes that made it qualify for an R rating. It had a little violence here and there, some really scary characters. Whereas this movie just like funny and silly and just really lighthearted and just definitely a hoot to watch. Yeah, Jesse, that's the main character's name, Jesse. Ari Gross's character, Jesse. I couldn't think of it. And I think that Charlie is the name of Jonathan Stark's character, if I remember correctly. I probably should have watched this before I did this review because it's not really that fresh in my mind. I do remember really enjoying it a lot, but not nearly as on the level of the first film, which I think this is like one of the most fun movies I ever watched. It's very underrated. I consider it a horror classic. I can't recommend it enough. If you do see the first movie and you like it, you'll definitely like this one too. you know, Will Dano's character is the great deceased great-great-great-grandpa who's like decomposing and yeah, and like a walking corpse. He's really funny. He's a riot. He's like a good guy version, like a virtuous version of Michael DeBar's character from Ghoulies. Like he's an undead relative, but he's like a good guy. And he's really jokey and funny, whereas Michael DeBar was a straight up villain. But yeah, House 2, the second story, definitely takes it in a good direction. I wish we could have had more like these, because then after that we got, you know, Horror Show, which wasn't really a proper House sequel. They just called it House 3, pretty much erroneously. And then House 4, which wasn't very good at all. It should have kept the fun factor. It didn't really have, aside from a few cheesy, laughable scenes, it didn't really have like the enjoyable factor. It was just either really depressing or like really, really childish. And it wasn't a good balance at all. So I don't recommend House 4. I say you skip that. But definitely check out House 2. This is a very fun movie and a good sequel, despite being a totally different story. I would have loved to see more of the Roger Cobb character. The real Roger Cobb, not the fake imposter from Part 4. But, you know, what are you going to do? I really like Jesse and Charlie in this movie, too. They're really fun. And, of course, Will Dano's character, as I said, is he steals every scene he's in. And then the evil, the bad guy, the outlaw, like, from, it's getting straight out of a Western movie. Oh, yeah, there's also, like, and he's kind of like a rotting mummy. There's also, like, a magical skull and, like, you know, the multi-dimensional time travel doorways and stuff. And it becomes an all-out battle of fierce Aztec warriors also. There's, like, look like the natives, like, they attack them and... Yeah, I think his grandfather is like 175 or something. He's really old. Maybe it's just his grandfather. Maybe it's not his great like I said. I don't remember. This movie's not fresh in my mind. Yeah, they got to do everything they can to stop that vicious gunman who returned from the grave. But it's more like an adventure than a nightmare. Yeah, there's pterodactyls. There's a lot of cool stop motion effects too. I'm a huge fan of stop animation. But yeah, I'd recommend it. It was directed by Ethan Wiley, who also wrote it, I'm pretty sure. And again, you know, not as good as the first movie, but still very, very fun and enjoyable and very entertaining. You'll also have a blast watching this nonetheless. So check out House 2, the second story, if you like really fun, slightly more lighthearted, less scary and suspenseful horror films. It's just a good way to kill some time, turn your brain off for 2 hours, and just have a good time. Invite some friends over to watch House 2. But if you haven't seen the first one yet, watch that one instead, for sure. Alright guys, I'm Hellhound, and I hope you enjoyed my review. Sorry it was a little all over the place. Sorry I repeated myself a lot. Again, this movie, I should have had it a little more fresh in my mind. I should have watched it first, but what are you going to do? I really wanted to talk about it today. And I kind of wanted to give that backstory on all the House movies, because, you know, I think it's a very interesting franchise with the horror show, and, you know. So yeah, check all these movies out. I like them a lot. I think you'll definitely be pleased that you did. So, but don't take my word for it. Go out and watch them yourself, because you'll have a blast. Alright guys, until next time. House rules.